with you. In the Midlands, BBC Radio.
Call 0845 303 9303.
Well, our special guest tonight on The Record Collectors is that legend, Brenda Lee, making a welcome return to Great Britain. Welcome to the programme, Brenda.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, your history in pop music goes back more than 30 years, but younger than Mick Jagger and younger than Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
You started off back in really before Jerry Lee Lewis cut his first record.
Yeah, I started out recording in 1956. Had my first record then. So, yeah, I've been recording for quite a while now.
What got you into music?
I just have always sang as a child. I can't remember not ever singing. I don't know how I started singing. I just started singing as a little girl and kept it up.
Now, I've read somewhere artists like Billie Holiday influenced you, but what were you listening to when you were so young?
Well, I actually wasn't influenced by anybody because when I was young, during my formative years of singing, the only music that I really heard was through the church. So, because we didn't have a radio and we didn't have a record player, phonograph or anything, so there was nothing for me really to listen to. So I didn't hear other artists until I got into my actual teens, and started performing with other artists on the stage and all.
Now, can you remember how you got your first record contract?
I was on a network television show in Springfield, Missouri called the Ozark Jubilee with Red Foley, and his manager became my manager. And we got a contract with Decca Records, which, of course, now is MCA Records, with whom I was affiliated for 30 years almost.
They still hold your back catalogue, don't they, MCA?
Yes, they still own my masters. Yes, they do.
Can we play a track from that very early period, that one of your favourites, one of your early recordings? What would you like to play?
Oh, gosh, play Sweet Nothings.
And here is, a little bit later than this period, but here is Brenda Lee and Sweet Nothings. We're talking to Brenda Lee here on the Record Collectors programme. On Brenda, you first visited Britain in 1959, was it? 59?
It was either 58 or 59, somewhere along in there, yeah.
Now, in this country, you've got a big following amongst, if I can say so, rockers and country artists. But you made that transition between the two effortless, didn't you, combining the two musics?
I guess so. It didn't seem a hard thing to do. I was known primarily as pop and rock. And then when music sort of changed in the 70s, when rock and roll became something else other than what we knew it as and what we started and created it as, I sort of went country. My stuff was sort of categorized country, and so I had a lot of #1 country records and top 10 country records, and still continue to do that. Although throughout the rest of the world, I'm known only as pop and rock, never country, only in America.
Let's talk about Owen Bradley, because you're one of his one of the major artists that recorded under Owen Bradley. Many people consider Owen discovered Roy Orbison and Buddy Holly and other country artists, many other country artists. What was working like with Owen Bradley? What kind of man was he?
Well, he's a great man. He's
retired now.
He does special projects. He did an album on Katie Lang, Shadowland, which was a very big success, and I was on that album as well, and we received a gold record for that. So it was a very successful album. But he was a genius. He was a wonderful song man, a wonderful musician, cut artists like me, discovered, me, Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Kitty Wells, Ernest Tubb, and the list is endless. Most of his success, though, was with women. So he was just a great guy to work with, and I started with him so young, when I was 9 years old, that he was almost like a father figure to me, so we're very close.
Now, reading about you, and I could be corrected, you don't have the chip on your shoulder so many artists had in the 50s about being ripped off, or it doesn't come across that you feel bad about that period when so many artists do. Is that true, and why is it true?
Well, for one thing, I wasn't ripped off. I came out of that pretty much intact, because we had a law in Tennessee where I resided called the Jackie Coogan Law, so most of my money was put into the courts and looked after. until I became of age, which I didn't really take any money till I was almost 28 years old. So I got out of that pretty well. And, I'm sure some money got pilfered along the way here and there, but none of any substance. So I'm not bitter about those days at all.
Seems like a good law, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's for minors, and a lot of states have the law. The percentage of earnings varies. In Tennessee, it just happened to be 100% of a child's earnings. I think in California, it's maybe 25% or 50%, or other states it's less. So it is a good law, and it does protect minors.
Now, let's go back to some of those early recordings, because they're very collectible now. Were there any outtakes or anything in the very early sessions that was never released?
No, Owen and I didn't do a lot of stuff that was never released. We never had a lot of stuff, as we call, in the can. Most of the stuff that we've done has been out and been released, and there's not a lot of stuff there that hasn't been used. We never made a habit of doing that.
For me, what's your favourite? Because I love rock and roll. What's your favourite personal rock and roll track?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'd have to think. I love the early stuff that I used to do and still do when I come to England, like Let's Jump the Broomstick and that kind of stuff. I love those kind of rockabilly feel type songs. And go ahead.
Let's play Let's Jump the Broomstick.
Okay.
Here is Brenda Lee and Let's Jump the Broomstick. Let's Jump the Broomstick from Brenda Lee, who's our guest on Record Collectors this evening. Let's move on a little bit, because you met the Beatles. In fact, they were way down the bill when you were working with Gene Vincent in Hamburg. Any memories from that period?
I remember them very well. I was very impressed with them. I thought they were a very exciting group of young boys. And, of course, at the time I was only 16, 17 years old myself, but I went back to America after working with them and told my record company about them and said, you should sign these boys up. They're going to be very big. And they weren't interested. And about a year later, they came onto the scene, and the rest is history.
Yes. Did you ever see them in later years?
No, I never ran across them after, they became so famous in the States, because they never worked with anybody. They always went on tour by themselves, and I was always working myself, so we never sort of caught up with each other.
Patsy Cline, you are a close friend of Patsy Cline.
Yes.
Any memories of her? Because she's now legendary. I mean, so many people are curious about her. When people die, we appreciate them more, don't we?
Seems like that, yeah. It's a shame that has to happen before you appreciate them, but it seems that that's the case. Patsy was a wonderful woman, lady, a very bawdy kind of a girl. She spoke her mind and didn't take much from anybody, and gave as good as she got. So she was I thought, a wonderful person. She was about 12 years older than I was, so she was like a big sister to me.
Another person that I've got a picture of you with is, of course, Elvis Presley. What was Elvis like?
Oh, he was a kind, gentle man. He loved his family, loved his home and his roots, and stayed true to himself, and I thought he was a wonderful person.
I've heard so many bad things about him, but you actually knew him. And
well, I knew him through his a lot of his life, from his 20s on till he passed away, and I knew him during the good times and during the bad times as well. And I still think that he was a great guy, and that his contributions overshadow whatever problems he might have had.
When are you next going to visit us?
Well, I hope I'll be back sooner than it's taken me to get back this time. It's been about 8 years since my last visit, so hopefully I'll be back long before that the next time.
Let me pick a track, any track you like of yours that if I can get my hands on, I'll play right now.
Okay.
You choose a track that you'd like me to play.
Play As Usual.
And here is As Usual for Brenda Lee. That was As Usual for Brenda Lee. On behalf of the record collectors in the Midlands area, can we thank you for the music and pleasure you've given us? Because I know our listeners think the world of you, Brenda.
Well, I appreciate that, and on behalf of myself, can I thank all the listeners for their years of support and loyalty. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Miss Brenda Lee.
Thank you.